This is the video tutorial for the Molly round drawstring bag. Ideal for cosmetics and travel essentials and has so many more uses. And this is how you make it. And this is what you'll need. Fabric for the lining, fabric for the outer, a small piece of Velcro, some toggles and some cord. And this is how we make it. To make your circle for your lining, take your lining fabric and fold it in half, right sides together, and then again the opposite way. Make sure that your sides line up and then take it over the iron and give it a nice sharp crease. We'll need those creases later on in the make. I've pressed a nice sharp crease along. Next, take your template that you've cut out and stuck together and using this point and this point, put your template on. The straight lines of your template should all be on your folded sides across the top. The round part of your template should be the open sides. Once you're happy, you position, pop a few weights on if you've got them or whatever you use, and then draw carefully all the way around the curve and then cut it out. I've cut all the way around the curve and you should be left then with a perfect circle. Don't worry about the crease lines because we will be using those later on in the make. And once you've cut your lining, repeat the same process for the outer piece. I've cut my outer in exactly the same way and I've remembered to leave my crease in place and I've remembered to leave my crease line in place on the lining. And now I'm going to put these to one side while we work on the handle. Next, we're making the strap. Take your strap fabric and place it right sides down, so that's your pretty side, and fold it in half lengthways and press. Open it out and then take this edge and place it on that centre crease that you've just made. And once again, press. Then take the opposite one, the raw edge, and place that on that centre crease as we did before. And press. Next, fold in half, line up your edges, and when you're happy with how they all look, press once again. Pop some clips in. I'll pop some clips in and now I'm going to take it over the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch all the way along the open seam and then along the folded seam as well. I've top stitched along both of the long sides and that's your handle finished, and we're going to put it to one side. We're now working on the flap. Place your flap fabric right sides up so you're looking at the pretty side. Fold in half and form a nice sharp crease to determine the centre. Then take your ruler, and measure 4 centimetres from the bottom of the curve upwards and make a mark, as I've done. And this is where we're going to put the Velcro. Next, take your Velcro and place it carefully on the line so it's centred. Pop a pin in and then take it over the sewing machine and sew into place. I've sewn the Velcro into place and now we're going to sew the strap on. Measure 1.5 centimetres from this top edge and make a mark, and do the same for this side. I've made the marks each side. Now take the strap that you made earlier and place it on the mark so the top of your strap is touching that mark. And add a clip or a pin, whatever you feel most comfy with. And do the same for this side, so I'm putting the edge of the strap against that line I drew. And now they're in place, I'm going to take them over to the sewing machine and tack quite close to the edge so they don't move. I've tacked the straps into place. You won't see these stitches in the final make. Next, place the remaining flat piece of fabric right sides together on top so the pretty sides are touching. It's a bit awkward when you've got your strap there, but take your time and then put lots of clips all the way around. I've lined up all the sides and edges and popped lots of clips in. I've left a gap well away from where the handle is, and next I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and using 1/4 inch seam allowance, starting along the straight edge, sew all the way across and stop, and then sew carefully all the way around the curve. Take your time with this if you're not used to curves, and where the gap is, stop and then restart again up until this straight edge and stop. I've sewn all the way around. I've remembered to leave a gap at the side. I've snipped the top corners and I've also snipped all the way around the curve to give a much better finish when we turn it. And now I'm going to turn it the right way through the gap I left. I've turned it and given it a nice press, and I've also ensured that the gap's folded in neatly. Next I'm going to top stitch just around the curve, so starting at the top stitch all the way around. You could use your fancy stitch if you wish. I'm not going to sew across the top at all. I've top stitched all the way around the curve, remembering not to sew across the top, and now I'm going to put the flap to one side while we work on the channeling. Take your channeling piece and fold over 1 centimetre and then another 1 centimetre, press and add a clip, and repeat for the other end. I've clipped and folded both ends, and now I'm going to take it over the sewing machine and sew along both sides. I've sewn along, and now I'm going to fold in half lengthways, wrong sides together. Match up the bottom edge and press. Next, take one of your channelings and fold in half. And press. Take the other one and press. This is just to determine where the centre is. We're now going to attach the channelling to the outer. Using the crease that we left in and the crease that we've just made in the channelling, place the two creases together. Ensure that the folded edge is facing inwards and the raw edge and the raw edge of your outer meet. And add a clip. Take your time and slowly put lots of clips all the way around the channelling and the outer. You can use pins if you're more comfortable with those. You'll need lots of clips. Nearly that done there, until you get to the edge. Then we've got to do this side. And once again, lots of clips. And once you've done that, repeat with your other channelling all the way around that centre as well. Again, using the crease as your guide. I've clipped all the way around, and it is right that there's a gap between the two channelling pieces. And next I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and I'm going to tack quite close to the edge all the way around, and all the way around this one, just to hold them into place. I've tacked the channelling all the way around, and next I'm going to place the Velcro in position. Measure 8 centimetres from the bottom edge, make a mark, draw a line and pin your Velcro into place. And do the same for this end, using that centre crease. Measure 8 centimetres up, draw a line, and that's where you put the edge of your flap. Pin into place. Next, take it over to your sewing machine and sew your flap across the top there, and sew your Velcro into place there. I've sewn the Velcro into place, and I've also sewn the flap, and as you can see I've sewn pretty close to the edge there, missing the straps. And I've also used my double jean stitch on there just to give it a bit of extra strength. If you haven't got a jean stitch, you might like to go over that twice just to give it extra strength. I've sewn close to the edge, so when I turn it over you'll see that the handles are free to move. Next we're going to place the lining on top. So fold your flap out of the way as best you can. Then take your lining fabric and again, using the creases in the fabric, match up each of the 4 creases and the bottom one and the side ones. And when you're happy where they are, start popping lots of clips all the way around. I've placed the lining on top of the outer. I've lined up all the edges all the way around and I've put the clips in. I've made sure that both fabrics are facing right sides together, so this is the back of the lining. I'm leaving a gap about here so it's away from the flap and it's away from the gaps in the channeling. And next I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, starting here, so carefully all the way around. Now take your time with this because it's quite a big circle, and when you get to here, stop. I've sewn all the way around, and the next part is to turn it the right way by pulling it through the gap I left. I've turned in the raw edges of the gap and put some pins in. I've also pressed it, and now I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and carefully top stitch all the way around. Again, if you've got fancy stitches and you feel confident using them, you can use them on this. And as you sew all the way around, if you can see, you'll automatically close the gap that you left for turning. Remember to top stitch quite close to this edge. Next, we're going to thread the cord. Take a safety pin and attach it to one piece of your cord, and starting at this end, thread your cord all the way around, so it comes out here. Once you've threaded it all the way through, as I've done, the next step is to add the toddle. I'll put the toddle on and I've tied a knot, so that's the one side done. And now I'm going to repeat exactly the same, but start threading from this side. I've added toddles to that side and that side, and all we've got to do now is add some contents. And that's your Molly bag with handle all finished.